Hello and welcome to the video by TrumpExcel. I'm Sumit Bansal, and in this video I'm going to show you how to split columns in Power Query. So here I have this data set, and in this data set I have the sales rep names, and you can see I have the first name and the last name. Now if I want to split this data into first name and last name in Power Query, I can easily do that. So I would click any cell in this data, go to the data tab and click on from table range, and this opens the data in the query editor. Now I would first have to select the column that I want to split, and now the split column options are in two places. So I can go to the home tab, and here I have split column, and if I click on it, you can see I have two options to split these columns. I can do it by delimiter, or I can do it by number of characters. And I also get the same option if I right click on this and go to split column here. So in this case, let me first show you how to work with delimiter. Now when I click on it, it opens the split column by delimiter option, and it has already identified that in this case, because I have something such as a space in between these text strings, then space can be one of the delimiter. Of course, you can change this if you want. So you can use a colon, comma, equal to sign, semicolon, space, or tab, or you can use a custom delimiter if you want. But in this case, I'm going to go with space. Now, there are three ways you can split this column. First is by the leftmost delimiter. So this means that in case I have multiple spaces, it would only consider the leftmost space for splitting. So anything before that would be in one column, and anything after that would be in second column. I can use the rightmost delimiter, which again means that only the rightmost delimiter would be used. Anything before that would be in first column, and anything after that would be in the second column. And I can use each occurrence. So let's say if I have a name that has first name, middle name, and last name, then I can use this one, and it will split the first name in one column, middle name in second column, and the last name in third column. In this case, I want to go with leftmost delimiter. There are also these advanced options, and you can see it allows me to split it into columns or rows. Now, in most of the cases, you would be using the columns option, but just to tell you what rows does, if you split it by rows, it would create a duplicate record. So one for Laura, one for Smith, one for Stacy, one for Johnson. In most of the cases, as I said, you are going to use the columns option. Now, let me click OK and show you what happens. As soon as I click OK, instantly it splits this into two different columns with the name salesrep.1 and salesrep.2. So it's using the column prefix here, the original column prefix, and it simply adds the number 1 and 2. So if I want, I can rename this here. So I can call this first name, and I can call this last name. Now if you want, you can delete the last name column if you don't want it. Oh, sorry. This would be first name, and this would be last name. Now if you don't want this column, you can delete it. You can load this data back into Excel and you can use it. Now let me show you a different data set. So I would close this and discard this data, and now when I come to this data here, data 2, you can see in the sales rep column, instead of using a space as the separator for the first name and last name, this data uses a line feed, which means that the first name is in the first line and second name is in the second line within the same cell. Now if I want to split this column, let's see how to do this. So I would go to data, from table range. This opens the data in the query editor, and here I would select this column, go to split column by delimiter. And Power Queries is smart enough to identify that in this case, the delimiter cannot be a colon or a space because those don't occur in this data. But what occurs is a line feed, and you can see it says hash, and in parentheses it says line feed. Now you don't need to remember this code for each and every delimiter, but just to show you that this is how it works. Now if you are not sure what delimiter code is, you can simply select custom, and when you select custom, you have this option active, split using special characters, and here you can select the character. So it could be a tab, a carriage return, line feed, carriage return, and line feed, or non-breaking spaces. In this case, I'm going to use line feed, which is already inserted here. So you don't need to do anything, just select here. See what happens when I select line feed again. It simply inserts the code again here. I don't want this to be there two times, so I would simply keep it once. Now again, you can split based on the leftmost delimiter, rightmost, or each occurrence. I'm going to go with leftmost here, and I'm going to split it into columns and see what happens when I click OK. instantly it would split the first name and last name into two separate columns. Again, you can rename these columns, keep the ones that you want, and load this data back into Excel. Now, another way of splitting columns is by using the number of characters. So let's say I have the product ID here, and I don't want the text part here, which is K and L. I only want the number, which is 001, 002. So in this case, what I can do is I can ask Power Query to split it based on the number of characters. So not give me the first two characters, but only give me the last three characters. So to do that, I would select this column, go to split by column by number of characters. And here I can specify the number of characters, which would be 2 in this case. Now, there are three options. Once, as far left as possible. This means that it would split this by, so after 2 characters, it would split this column. So I would have KL in 1 and 001 in second. If I go to 1 as far right as possible, it would split it based on the last 2 characters. So I would get KL 0 in 1 and 01 in the second one. And repeatedly means that it'll do that based on the number of characters in this cell. So for example, because there are 5, it would do it twice. The first 2 would be KL, the next 2 would be 01, 00, and the third would be 1. So in this case, I'm going to go with once as far left as possible with 2 here. And again, in an advanced option, you can split it in columns or rows. I'm going to go with columns and click OK. And see what happens. It instantly gives me these 2 columns where I have the ID here and I have the ID here. Now in this case, you can simply remove this one, KL, if you want, and you can use the product ID. Now you can see that in case of product ID, it has converted this into a whole number. If you want, you can convert this into a text if you want to use it that way. So when I convert it into text, you can see I get the 00 part here, but if I convert it into a number, it only shows me 1, 2. So you can modify this data type, and this is how you can split by the number of characters. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and have a nice day.